Hey YouTube, it's Pandy, and I'm reviewing the EZ4 or M4A2E4 for World of Tanks. This EZ4 is rewarded to members of the closed beta testers community as a gift for achieving at least 1,000 battles and who were registered before January 27th, 2011. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a little bit of history about this tank. Now, historically, the Sherman family of tanks were primarily driven by gasoline engines. However, the M4A2s were designed with diesel engines and intended to be Lend-Lease exports to countries like the United Kingdom and the Soviet Union. The M4A2E4s were experimental tanks with only 2 prototypes ever being made during the summer of 1943. Due to maintenance problems with its suspension, its development was cancelled. EZ4's main armament is a 75mm Tier 4 gun. This particular gun is actually featured on all 3 of the Shermans, the M7, T14, and the M3 Lee. Now, this particular gun does pretty well against a bunch of lighter vehicles or medium tanks of a lower tier because of its rate of fire. It's actually pretty decently fast, and it can tear up quite a few lower tier vehicles. You can fare pretty decently against medium tanks of the same tier as you, but you're going to have to just put a bunch of AP rounds into it to really make a difference. And you can't get hit in the process when you're doing this. Now, you're going to have a hard time penetrating heavy tanks with this particular gun because it has a low penetration, but any problem can really be solved with just massive amounts of high explosives. And this particular gun, you can actually hold 90 rounds, and I usually go for ratio 50 AP, 40 HE, because of the situations that I've been running into. Being able to pump a lot of high explosives out gives you a force multiplier in regards to your fighting ability. Now, its accuracy overall is below average. You're not going to be able to do a lot of sniper moves or sit back and snipe during the whole game, but you can get some pretty decent long shots when you need to. It's just not particularly accurate. Now, this particular gun, because it's a slow moving round, does require a bit of leading when you're trying to hit moving targets from long range, and if you ever get a chance to shoot at a target that's still far away and fire, you will notice a latency between you firing and when it hits. It's most definitely noticeable. Overall, it's what you expect out of a tier 4 gun. Now, the EZ4 compared to other tier 5 premium medium tanks, it does not have the best armor. Well, I take that back. It has the superior frontal armor, but its sides and its rear armor is lacking in comparison. Now, the protection is great as long as you are the biggest tank against lighter or some lower tiered medium tanks. The protection is great. However, when you're facing off against tier 6, 7, 8 tanks, the protection is almost non-existent. It is paper thin. You're not going to survive any of the 88s or 90 or 122mm guns. Especially with only 500 points of health, you're not going to survive. So my best piece of advice for anyone playing this tank is to avoid getting hits and be primarily in a supporting role. The only exception to this advice is if you are the larger tank or the largest tank, you have to spearhead the attack. You do have enough protection as long as you are the largest tank on the field of battle against a bunch of light tanks. You should fare fairly well. The tank itself does have a speed limit of 52 kilometers an hour, which is actually pretty decent when you compare it to other tier 5 tanks. It doesn't have to get up and go like the EZ8 does, however it does get from A to B pretty efficiently in a pretty short time. It does fare well in urban environments when you're trying to turn the tank to face an enemy to put your front towards them, but it does have a difficult time trying to get through tight spots and to find low profile firing positions when you're facing off against an enemy. However, the mobility of it does give it a tactical advantage because it is a medium tank of exploiting weaknesses in enemy lines or just simply trying to flank enemy forces when you're supporting larger, heavier arms. So overall, the mobility of this tank does act as if it was a medium tank and does get the job done.
Enemy armor is destroyed.
My overall impression of the M4A2E4 is that it is a bloated, oversized, obese, mentally challenged Sherman tank. Now granted that its frontal armor is better than the EZ8's frontal armor, it just simply doesn't have the gun to be able to capitalize in any spearhead attacks or be the primary source of defense when you're facing off against larger tier or heavier tanks. Now the best luck that I've actually found with this tank is to be the supporting element to any heavier or larger tanks in the form of supporting fire or being the element that finds weaknesses in enemy lines and sacrificing myself for the team's greater good. Now it does suffer along the same lines as the Matilda and the Ram in the form of having a weaker gun, but it doesn't get any kind of boost in regards to overall armor or health. Now that does have the best armor in comparison to these tanks, or frontal armor in comparison to these tanks, but its overall armor in regards to everything, like its front, sides, and rear, is completely lacking. EZ4 is a great money making tank, but it is real crappy. It is real crappy. But this real crappy tank has really grown on me. No matter how obvious these limitations are on this vehicle, I actually plan on keeping it for, well, simply my spoils for beta testing and my trophy of seniority when it comes to other players actually arriving to play World of Tanks. My overall rating for the M4A2 EZ4 is that it's Pandy's favorite crappy tank. Now, if you guys actually liked what I did here, if you guys liked this review that I made, please favorite the video. It does truly help. And I actually hope you guys actually enjoyed the video. And as always, everyone, good hunting.